Paul, I don't know what's going to happen this weekend. I don't think anybody does. Maybe President Trump does. Geopolitics is dominating. The oil price is climbing. How big a risk to risk assets is this?
Yeah, good morning, Guy. Well, I was joking with my manager a while back, telling him, we've got the risk of a collapse of the British monarchy. We've got the brink of a war. We've got, private markets under extreme pressure, possible threat of an alien invasion. Asian index gives back 0.3, 0.4%, and US futures rally. So far as today's session is concerned, risk markets are taking it relatively in their stride. Where we are seeing the pressure play out is in the crude oil market. Of course, we've got Brent Crude pushing up out of the range to the highest levels this year. And so that does tell you that there are some nerves out there. But the communication from Trump seems to be around this idea that there's another couple of weeks worth of negotiation time before we would get to any kind of action. And the market seems to be relatively comfortable with that. Yes, we did have a little bit of a risk off in the US session yesterday, but the gains in the futures today sort of have erased pretty much all of that already. So at least as far as Asia is concerned, the risk sentiment is still looking pretty resilient and strong.
Paul, the list of risk factors then for these markets, I love the way you illustrated it. So aliens and an alien invasion. So let's go there, Paul.
How do you price in that?
How do you price in an alien invasion, Paul? Oh, OK, private credit, Paul. Blew out, is in focus. The whole space was under pressure. Stock selling off yesterday. How much of a risk is this, do you think?
Yeah, nobody really knows. And that's the biggest problem, isn't it? There's so much opacity within that market. And so some people are crying wolf, saying that, oh, my goodness, they've shuttered some funds. This is exactly like the start of the financial crisis. Others are much more relaxed, including the private credit companies themselves, which are saying defaults are extremely low, and the track record so far would seem to prove that. But we don't know exactly what that exposure looks like. And the fact that there's a lack of obvious data out there by the very fact that it is private markets is one of the things that has markets worried. So that's why we're seeing those stocks of asset managers rattled and worried a little bit about what the contagion might look in the rest of the market universe.
In terms of kind of where we go next, what are you watching, Paul? We've got Asian markets beginning to come back. How big a factor is that in terms of broadly what people are thinking about? You've got US data we're going to be watching a little bit later on. What's caught your eye this morning in terms of the market moves you're watching?
Yeah, so I think that the China return is going to be interesting. We've seen a couple of the AI startups really rallying hard today, Minimax and Zhipu, but we've seen those platform companies still under pressure. They've been trying to drum up business, but nonetheless, Alibaba, Tencent still fading. And I think that speaks to the weakness within the Chinese economy. So it'll be very interesting when they start trading again on Monday to see just how strong the markets can hold up there.